Hello and welcome to Love Anything Art. I have another little experiment I am trying today with some translucent clay. I have two different brands here. I have the Premo and then the Sculpey 3. And they are similar in color, but one seems to be more transparent than the other. So I wanted to see what it would do to the exact same piece. So I have two pieces of gray clay that I've rolled out. I just chose gray because I thought that color would be pretty neutral, and I didn't want to use white clay because I tend to use a lot of white and blacks in my projects, and well, I just wanted to do a little something different. So I've cut out two squares. I'm just going to make a line down the center of each, and that's just to divide it up. On one side, I'm going to be applying paints, just regular, cheap, like dollar store paints. And then on the other side, I'm going to be using my alcohol inks. And I wanted to do that on both pieces so that I can apply the translucent clay, each brand over them, to see what it looks like with paint and what it looks like with the alcohol inks, just to kind of get a good idea and generalize what it would look like with different kinds of products. And I just chose three kind of Eastery colors that I thought looked good together. It goes with my gray, and then I tried to mirror those colors with the alcohol inks, a purple, a red, and a yellow. Of course, the colors are a little bit darker and more vibrant. But I'm just going to apply the paint to the right side of each of my test pieces. And while I'm doing that, I do want to welcome everybody to my channel. If you are new, welcome, and please consider hitting that subscribe button. I do have about 220-ish videos for you to binge watch. I think I have some good ideas here and there. Maybe not so good on some of them, but I hope you enjoy, and please consider hitting subscribe. I'd love to hear from you and chat with you, so just leave me a comment below. Thanks. And then on the other side, I'm going to start applying my inks, and the purple that I put down actually turned out to be a bluish color because of the gray underneath, I'm assuming. So it's all good though. The colors still look good together. Now I'm going to apply the translucent clay. The left side of my screen will always be the Premo, and then the right side is always going to be the Sculpey. I did try to get it as thin as possible before putting it on. I am going to roll it out a little bit more once it is on, but I do want it to be rather thin to begin with because I don't want to have to stretch the clay out too much underneath. And I can tell you right off the bat here, they are obviously two different colors, but the Premo was way easier to roll out thin without it kind of smudging and smearing. I had to do a lot of manipulating and maneuvering to get the Sculpey on the right side there to actually roll out thin without being brittle and breaking and kind of goopy. So there is a definite difference in consistency. And just to kind of further do my experiment here, I'm going to place on a stencil, and I wanted a stencil that had pretty wide open spaces, but an equal part spaces where it was covered, so the white part of the stencil as opposed to the open part. And I thought that this was the perfect stencil for that. And it also kind of rolls out the clay underneath a little bit too, so it'll make it thinner. And then just scrape off. Basically at this point I'm just kind of scraping off the translucent, but the more I scrape and roll out, the more I'm going to start digging down into the actual clay Now there's 3 layers. You have the translucent, you have your paint or your alcohol inks, and then you have the color underneath. So you can scrape and scratch down as far as you want, or maybe just kind of do a combination of both. Leave some transparent, leave some of the back clay, and then also leave some of the paint on it. Mine is kind of all over the place there. Wasn't trying to be perfect and came out looking pretty good here. And I did that with both sides, the exact same thing. And you can see there on the left that it looks a bit clearer, and then the one on the right does look a little bit more obtuse. Does look a little bit more white, like it's covering up more of the clay, kind of milky. You can bake your pieces like this, or if you want to go ahead and cut out shapes just to not waste any clay, and you can make something pretty out of this. I think it's going to come out good in the end. It's an experiment, but it's also going to come out pretty in the end. So I am going to make some shapes. You can use cutters or whatever you like. To make this thicker and to have the front and the back match, I'm just cutting each of the pieces directly in half, and then I'll just stack them on top of each other. So now the front and back are the same, and it definitely added some thickness to the piece. And then I just made a random shape out of some paper, making sure each of those will be covered by my clay. I cut out a little top shape too. And again, the left is the Premo, and then the right is the Sculpey. I have baked it, and you can already tell that the colors are much more vibrant. Looks like that translucent clay kind of has been pushed to the back. But I'm going to do a comparison here showing you the pre-baked clay, just my scraps, compared to the baked clay. And it does come out quite a bit clearer. I think once the resin gets on there, it's definitely going to add that luster and shine to the piece. And then the other side of that too. And then this was the paint. And that one, the yellow, really popped out after it was baked. You can see there on the right that it is very muted and then very shiny. The pink also, very bright. And honestly, this came out the same way. Maybe not as clear as the Premo, but still pretty clear. You wouldn't be able to tell that there was translucent clay or some other clay over top of it. So it baked up pretty clear. And then again on that one, the yellow and the pink definitely started to pop after it was baked, and I really, really like that. So it's cool and interesting to see also the difference between the paint and the alcohol inks and kind of how the translucent clay affects that. So if you have projects in mind, you can consider these little experiments that I did before making anything. And now I'm just going to assemble and put some resin on there, and then I'll show you what it looks like. All right. These are the final pieces. Again, the left is the Premo, and then the right, or the bottom down there, is the Sculpey. And just kind of comparing each of those, they are quite similar, very minimal differences. The biggest thing I think for this project for me was the rolling out of the translucent clay. The Premo was way easier to work with than the Sculpey. But if you prefer one brand over the other, I see no difference really in the outcome of the pieces. and they still end up vibrant and pretty and beautiful. If you liked this video, please consider hitting the subscribe button and also leaving me a comment or hitting that like button. I appreciate it. I appreciate each and every one of you. And of course, I'll see you next week for another polymer clay little adventure. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!